they're going to cut Social Security. Now, they're going to tell you that they're going to increase Social Security, but really, when increases of Social Security fall behind inflation, they're really cuts. Just like whenever they cut spending for the federal government, and yet the government keeps growing, and it always grows faster than inflation, Social Security checks are going to drop below inflation again. We saw that last year, but this year it's going to be even worse. They're saying that the COLA, or the cost of living adjustment for Social Security, this year, when they announce it in October, is going to be running about 3%. The Nonpartisan Senior Citizens League is pointing the finger squarely at these government adjustments coming out of the White House and its current resident-in-chief. They've been manipulating these numbers in order to get the costs of government down, in order to cut the costs that they're spending on actual obligations like Social Security, retirement benefits to retired soldiers, retired government workers. They want to cut these things down without actually having to cut anything. So they're just playing with the inflation numbers so that they can then basically cheat everyone out of billions and billions and billions of dollars. So 3% cost inflation, or cost of living adjustment that they're looking at, COLA, or as most senior citizens are going to feel it this year, it's going to feel more like a colonoscopy, because 3% is not keeping up with how much everything has gone up in price. Do you feel that some things have gone down in price in the past year? The government tells you 3% inflation, but when you go to Walmart, when you go to Aldi, when you go to grocery stores, do you see 3% inflation over the last year? Are you spending 3% more on food than you were last year? I think I speak for pretty much all of us when we say it costs a lot more money than 3%. Electric bills are up way more than 3%. Practically everything out there is up more than 3%. Medical procedures, prescription drugs. What is there that has gone down? Now, they're going to say that energy prices have dropped 12.5%. I would like them to talk to my utility company and tell them that, because the cost of my electricity has not gone down at all. Now they're going to say gasoline prices are down, and they are a little bit down, some I guess, but we're not talking 12.5% across all utilities. My water bill's just gone up. How about yours? My power bill's gone up. I don't have a natural gas bill here, but I keep hearing everyone out there talking about how much it's costing more to get natural gas. It's costing more to get propane in your house. Even the things that they say are going down aren't going down. I don't know, maybe there's a utility company somewhere that's making money off this, but it sure ain't you and I that's actually pocketing these savings. The Big Mac index, you've heard of that before? Or basically, instead of just regurgitating all the government numbers out there, what they do is they just go, how much does a Big Mac cost in pretty much any city in the United States on average? The Big Mac index is up 7.7%. But Social Security is only going to go up 3%, because that sounds like fair. If you think that inflation is running right around 8%, like the Big Mac index says it is, just like housing is up 7.7% too. I'm sorry, the Big Mac index is up 8.3%, but the housing index is up 7.7%. Right around that 8% number yet again, right? If you think that inflation is more like what these numbers kind of agree with, 8%, which I personally think is still significantly lower than what we are actually experiencing, 3% to 8%, that's a 5% cut to people's Social Security. That's real, folks. Now, we have all these commercials that come out during election seasons. You know, so-and-so's going to wheel grandma off the cliff. This person hates senior citizens. This person's going to reform Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and all that kind of stuff like that. But in reality, what we're seeing here is that the manipulation of all these bureaucrats and with the direct authorization from the highest ups in the White House, manipulating the cost of living down so much means that it's a very real 5% cut to Social Security across the board. And this is real, folks. This isn't fear-mongering. This is just looking at the numbers. They're stealing 5% from everyone's Social Security. Now, they're not stealing from me because I will never see Social Security. Like, I just know for a fact that I will never see Social Security. I pay into it, but I will never see it. If I do, it's going to be like pennies on the dollar because inflation will have eaten away at it so much for so many years. By the time I get there, it'll be like, here's your 50 cents for the month or something like that, in equivalent dollars. Just to put this more frankly, let's say in a crazy world, why don't we use the inflation measures that they used in 1990? Okay? So the way they calculated inflation in 1990, let's use those numbers and calculate what inflation was for the past year. Guess what that number is? If you said 8%, you're a winner. You get a chicken dinner. Well, if you can afford it. 8% if we were using the 1990 numbers. Now, if we were using the 1980 numbers, we would actually get 12% inflation. So that's why I say, personally, I think we're hovering more in the 12 to 13% inflation. I think that even McDonald's is not keeping up with inflation. I think that people are seriously underestimating what inflation is, and I think that Walmart, McDonald's, all these places like that are really actually undercharging us. They're taking a hit on this because they think if they hike the prices up to what inflation actually is, they're going to lose everybody. And that might be true. But the simple fact is, I think they're still protecting us. And there's going to come a point in the very near future where they're going to stop protecting us. I know a lot of you are out there saying these corporations are gouging us. I think it's actually the opposite. I think these corporations, when you look at like Walmart has their great value brand. I think these other stores have these, generic food things. What I'm seeing with those generics is I think that they're actually, because you do look at the shelves and they don't have enough great value brand items out there. You go to the store and you don't see enough of these generic brands out there anymore. And the reason for that is because they're undercharging people for these. They're overcharging people on the other side of things with the name brands, but they're undercharging on the generics. And I think that they can only do that for so long before they're going to have to say, we got to make people pay the real price, or we might need to make people pay more than the real price. And I think that when we see that, we're going to see what the real inflation numbers look like. I think utilities are actually, again, I think they're actually protecting us from these price hikes because they're afraid of getting thrown under the bus. I think they're afraid of state and local governments. They're refusing to allow them to raise the prices the way they need to in order to meet what actual inflation is, which means workers are getting underpaid. They should be paying these workers more, and that would cause everything to cost more. And so I think that we're really running more like 12 to 13% inflation, and it's like a rubber band. It's stretching, but it's going to snap back, and it's going to hurt real bad because we're going to pop back over 12 to 13% before we kind of come back at that number from the upside. And so that's why in the title I said, 5 to 10% cut on Social Security. You look at these numbers and you look at the lies from 1990, which are less egregious than the lies here in 2023. But if you look at the lies from 1990, it's more like 5% cut. But I think that if you look at numbers honestly, and this is coming from an accountant, okay? I think the numbers are more like 12 to 13%, which means we're seeing a serious 10% cut in the purchasing power of Social Security over the next year. That's huge, folks. Does that feel like a sucker punch right in the gut? Because if it doesn't, I don't know what planet you're on. You're either not on Social Security and not planning to be on it in the near future, or you're just not agreeing with my numbers somewhere. But I'm telling you where my numbers are. We're seeing that Walmart has come out and they've said that they are seeing food inflation at 20% over the past 2 years. Okay, so 20%, cut that in half, you're looking at an average of 10% food inflation per year. Like I said, right? That's a lot closer to what my number is, which is 12 to 13% food inflation. I think, like I said, I think Walmart has been protecting us to an extent from the worst of the price hikes. If you're buying name brand out there, you're probably getting soaked, okay? That's the truth. If you want to buy your name brand Pop-Tarts instead of getting the toaster pastries, cool. You know, you do you, but if you have the discretionary income, spend your money on whatever you want to. But if you're trying to just get on by, if you're trying to stock up for hard times, then you are feeling the pinch, because if you're like me, you saw the price of canned green beans go from 45 to 49 cents up to, where is it now, like 60, 65 cents per can. Friends, doing basic math on that tells me that that is like a 30% increase. That's a big jump up. That ain't 3%. Friends, we're getting hammered with inflation on the food front. We're getting hammered on the energy front. We're getting hammered on the cost of workers. Everything is getting a lot more expensive, and the simple fact is, if you're depending on the government for a paycheck, for Social Security, for a retirement check, for whatever, you're going to be sorely disappointed, because they are never going to keep up with inflation. They've created this monster, and this monster's purpose is to take as much money from you and I as possible and to transfer that wealth to the rich and wealthy and to the government itself. And here we are. They said money printing won't have any downside. Money printing won't hurt anybody. Friends, this next year, Social Security retirement people are going to feel it right in the gut. This COLA increase, the cost of living adjustment, is going to be like a giant colonoscopy for most of America. This inflation is ripping the guts out of America, and people who don't see this as a problem, they just want to stick their fingers in their ears and hum a nice happy tune. That's it. Now, I'm not a roll over and die kind of person, okay? You see me on this channel, and many of you are over on the Bible study channel over at Bold Faith Bible, doing daily Bible studies with me. You know I'm not about laying over and whatever, but you need to have a plan, friends, because the entire ground beneath us is shifting, and you need to be figuring out how things are changing and how you're going to adapt to it. Because if you don't have a plan going into it, friends, it's going to get awfully difficult in the few next years and months, because things are shifting and things can really shift fast. We saw that during the cough, didn't we? People panicked, and in the matter of a month, people were not leaving their homes. Who could have thought that as possible? I remember back in January watching the pictures and the videos coming out of China where they were welding people into their homes, and I said, that's insane. They would never do that here. That could never happen here. And yet, just 2 months later, they were effectively starting to do that. And believe me, by the end of 3 or 4 months, they were trying to push the initiatives to that point. But people push back. Friends, they're not going to make those mistakes again. They're not going to give you room to wiggle out of it again this time. They've been increasing their technology and their ability to crack down on people. Whether it's another cough, or whether it's the cough and wheezes and sneezes of our planet that they're responding to, whatever it is, whatever excuse they use, they're going to change things again, whether it's World War III or whether it's a war on the climate. They are going to seize more power, more wealth, and more of your freedoms from you. Do you have a plan? Do you have an idea what you're doing? And we just need to soberly address the reality of this, work together, build relationships with people who are like-minded, and get prepared for the hard times to come. That means making sacrifices now, folks. Not living your best life now, not living off the credit cards, but living a pulled back life so that you can live a better life next year and the year after that. Friends, we're not saving up for retirement anymore. We're saving up to get through the next few years because that's going to be a hard time. And we need to get through it all together. All right, folks, if you found this video to be useful or helpful, you might want to check out another video from this channel up here. If you want to check out Jonathan and his team over at Genesis Gold, if you have retirement accounts that you haven't dealt with yet, that you haven't gotten over into precious metals or something stable, you want to talk to Jonathan and his team over here. You can go to poplargold.com. They set up a little landing page there. It goes to Genesis Gold and his team, but that way they know to apply to make sure that you don't get charged the setup fee on there. So you get that deal applied directly if you go to that site. There's a link to that right there. Thanks so much for watching. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report out.